at 3 after your heavy midday meal, taking eerie session quite feels snoozy, but and that one Friday, but I don't have any other option because everyone is busy with their other timing. So I just got this 1 hour option only. So let me have my quick introduction. My name is Shishoda Reddy, and I'm a test engineer working in sales software solutions, and I'm part of sales from last 2+ years. So uh, let me just go ahead. So is anyone else joining? Like you have any other information? So or else we can start. I think Hema, Radhika's.
Shashidhar, I think we can continue since we have posted the message in random also. If anyone interested, they will join in middle. Yeah.
Sure, Kotesh. So, so as we majority we are all testers, and we come across this testing scenarios like a testing strategy or testing test plans, test design techniques, and everything. But I see a new faces who are interested in this session, and for who like experienced guys, this session might be as a refresher, and for new joinees that this can be might a new learning. So before entering into the topic, so if you see testing, some people with this term, they just see that in software industry only we use testing. But if in my opinion, if you see, and testing is everywhere. Like if I take an example of real life examples. Uh, when I go to when kitchen to shut my cylinder, like when my mother tells that turn off the cylinder, I turn off the cylinder and then I wait for 1 minute and then I smell that is it the smell is coming or not, because I'm not a regular person to the kitchen. So instead, my hand turns off the cylinder. I still, smells that is it smell is coming or not. That is one kind of a manual testing there, because I believe in the nose that okay, if it is not smelling, that it is working perfect, and if it is coming, then there might be a defect. So this is one of the regular life example. So not in the software but everywhere the testing includes, if you just see in a testing perspective. But when it comes to a software, that software is ubiquitous, like it's everywhere, like in finance, in telecom, in home building, and social networking, in IT industries, in hospitals, everywhere. Like when the software is everywhere, the chances of getting errors and defects in the software while running is also increases. So who are the guys who control these software defects or bugs, you can say, in that testing terminology. There we testers come into a picture. uh, so if you see this, we have some errors, like because of not testing. In early 1980s or 1970s, testing is not a that much like it's not just developing a software is just taking into consideration, but testing is not famous in that part of time. We have some major drawbacks because of not testing. Like if I consider an example, Ariane 5, because of one software bug, which is a rocket launcher developed by European Union agency. Just a small bit of like squeezing a 64-bit floating point into a 16-bit integer. It's not happened because of that small error. The entire 100 billion project went into like Bay of Bengal just in 30 seconds. In the same way, like you have another example like Therac 25, which is a computer controlled radiation therapy machine. Because of some point of adjustment in the radiation therapy, 6 patients die because of overdose radiation. Software is working fine, but they didn't test it this properly, and because of that, it cost lives. And this third example, I think. I think majority of people come across like Intel Pentium bug because of one incorrect binary floating point. Intel used to recall all the chip devices in the 1994, and Intel got a loss of $475 million. So that how the impact of impact if the software is not tested properly. This is just three examples. We have plenty, but and I just got these three, and I'm well aware of this, so that I put it so that I can introduce some importance part of the testing. So, but when it comes to process maturity, even in the industry we follow, like we have several types of levels of testing, like 0 to 4. So every organization need to check where exactly they are standing. Like if I consider as a level 0 testing, where there is no tester involvement and only a developer used to debug the software, and he say, hey, I got debug this application, you can deploy it. But that's a level 0 testing. That is the reason the above error solves false. And we have, when moving to level 1 to 0, from level 0 to level 1, here software engineers are somewhat their experience. They take a correctness of notes in the code language. They check everything, but when it's not testing by any third party or a third person, and there is no involvement, there might be high chances of increasing faults and failures in the software. uh, and after that we moved from level 1 to level 2, where some developers or third party persons involves, and they identify failures. They test in a different way. Like if you testing in a one way, he is going to test in another way, in a different code language, where we identify some failures. So that comes at a level 2, where yeah, somewhere the errors can be yeah, decrease, or the bugs can be identified more in comparison to level 0 and 1. But when it comes to level 3, we have testers and developers cooperate each other, and they they used to take calls each other, like if I take an example in our organization, we have a teams where people used to create a groups, and they discuss about the product, like what exactly it's going. We develop this one, and we might feel that there might be a risk involved in this, and test it in a different environments, like different ways. So that comes under level 3. But when you goes to level 4, it's testing is completely considered under a mental discipline. Like if I say large organizations called like Microsoft or Equifax. Here, if I give an example, if when I was in team like employment and verification team, because this video is going to social platform, I'm not taking any names of the process. But just to give a gist, if when I was in employment verification team, I see people, take discussions in the local channels like Teams, and they used to solve their queries or everything in the call itself. And documentation is very less when comparative to level 4. But yes, it's everything is in a general format. But when it comes to level 4, everything is a documented. Even for a small testing change, even for small UI change, you need to create a pull. Pull is going to verify by some other third party or third person. There is a hierarchy for everything. So level 4 testing is something which I encourage, so that like testing can be a mental discipline, where everything is documented, everything will be follow in a process. So organizations which fall under level 3 and level 4 testing part, we get a very less chances of errors and bugs. Uh, this is just a example of like process maturity uh, in the phases of testing, like from last 1970s or till today. So we have some testing methodologies which considered in a day-to-day life, like agile methodology, which we come across, which is majority used in IT industries, then where testing is in the phases. If I can say an example, if you divide in a 2 weeks sprint wise, 1 week is completely go as a developing week, and another week will be considered as a testing phase, where people get a lot of time to develop the product and an equal number of time so that they can test in a different way, in a different environment, different phases. The same way, we have embedded control software testing methodology, which is used in airplanes, trains, in not in India, if I'm not wrong, but in the US and UK, where they use embedded control software methodology very much. Uh, and the third comes to enterprise software, where we daily use like data server, which is completely related to database server management. It includes everything like SQL, Azure. We everything comes under this enterprises software methodology, where majority like banking, finance, service sector, like insurance sector uses these kind of methodologies. And fourth one is which web application. You can see Amazon, Flipkart, these, or else you can say Google also. We if in for the email part, we use a web application, or which includes it's also considered as a methodology, or you can consider it an application. Both we can take. And last, we have free softwares. We have plenty of softwares available in this era, like internet. So these are some of the methodologies which I considered from this internet, so that you can get an idea regarding this, how the testing flow of the testing methodology goes. Coming to the next slide, just want to give a insight of global market. Everywhere I can see only developing, is in a high phase, not testing. But if you see the chart from the CAGR for 2022 to 30, there is a 6% increase in the chance of, and today we are standing around $40 billion market value, and the market share for application testing segment, or the system integration segment, or we can say BFSI, which is banking, finance, and service insurance segment, are completely rely on testing. Most of these are using software. So if they are using software, means they are relying on the testing, testing market. So this is just intro of testing insight on the global, and little bit of information regarding testing. So when we just go to our agenda, today we gathered just to cover about what is the testing and importance of testing, testing strategies and its importance, what are the test plan, the test case design, uh, and the test case design, people say test design are same, but I'll definitely show, I'll try to show what is the difference exactly. And we have some types of software testing which we discuss in further session. So today's agenda is this. Let me just go to the next slide. So when it comes to the introduction of software testing, in a like a localized or in internet definition, software testing is an act of examining artifacts and the behavior of the software under test by validation and verification. These are the two key terms, when it comes to the testing. So like software testing can also provide an objective independent view of software to allow a business or anything like client's requirement, or you can say anything to appreciate and understand the risk of software implementation. This is just a definition which I gather from internet. But if I just say a definition of testing, is it everywhere? Like I mentioned previously, you don't observe, but testing is something which is everywhere if you just see in a testing perspective. We have some common testing methodologies, which I earlier considered. Verification, which is a very important term in testing, which is while developing software development, which concentrate mostly on quality assurance, not the quality. If I say control, but the quality assurance. So it is completely static, because while developing software, any product, you might come across a lot of difficulties in terms of elements, in terms of language, code, or any other thing. So Verification is something which it concentrate mostly on quality assurance so that everything goes static and everything will be well developed. And when it comes to validation, it's the end of the software development. You developers develop the software very in a very neat way, and but there is a control to be need, like what exactly you need to test in a different phases, different environments, different ways, so that the software when it goes to production it works in a perfect way. So that can be a dynamic, like even if you see in a like Amazon or Flipkart, a lot of big applications. Sometimes they get a lot of bugs which they fix in a Play Store in a Google, and then release their product. So so that which comes under validation. If I'm not if I want to explain in a clear way, like once the end of the software developed, the quality control, and it can be dynamic, like every time it changes. It's not a static part, like sometimes the client requirement may be other thing, like he may require that I need an addition of this, so that could you please provide, so that yeah, we can go and we can add it to this part, and then again we can control, like we check for the quality. So it's completely dynamic. And in verification, if you see, I just got some system design, like which is includes high level design, also low level design. We have system requirements, a business requirement document which is completely related to a product owner part, and the coding. So in verification part, everything includes, like client let you know the requirements of the product, what exactly he needs. He will document everything and give you to the developer, so that developer can go ahead and then code accordingly. So when it comes to validation, so we have in validation, we have white box testing. From validation, testing starts, like functional testing, unit testing. It is a combination, you can say, like a developer and a tester, because white box testing, functional unit testing, which is a developer part, system testing, everything, user acceptance testing. These all include in the validation, which are covered in a validation part, the end of the software development. Some of the software artifacts, like which I learning in testing, I faced a lot of difficulty while memorizing these five things, because I every time I used to see a bug or defect, I get a confusion that is a bug or defect is same, or error or bug is same. After a lot of time, like after 2 months going in a project and understanding each and everything in a prod environment, I came to understand, okay, these all are different terminologies. I just want to give some differences, what exactly these are. So if you consider a fault, it's a static defect in software, where it can be considered in a missing function or a wrong function in a code, that you call as a fault. So some people, like I see, even if they get a fault, they used to call it as a bug, but that's not the case. Fault is something which is a static defect in software, like you have some issue in the code, that is a fault, that comes under a fault. And sometimes people say failure. So failure is something which is an incorrect behavior concerning requirements, like your product owner is showing some requirement which is completely deviating from what you are developing. That comes under failure part. It can be coding level, it can be a documentation level, but that comes under a failure part. And when it comes to error, it's completely incorrect internal state, like that can be error is in mistake made in the code, like developer developing some code, but he cannot execute or compile the code because he is getting some error because of some information given wrong according to the requirement. So that comes under a error part. When it comes to testing part, a lot of people confuse between bug and defect. Even I came across this situation where I used to call sometimes bug as a defect. But if you consider a bug is a result of a coding error. But when it comes to a defect is a deviation from the requirement. in a simple terminology, if I explain you what is the difference between a defect and bug, uh, when we found issue in the application, but the difference is depends on the staging, like they caught it, like what stage they caught. If the issue is discovered in testing life cycle, the STLC we call, it is known as a bug. But if the issue is found in the development phase, then they can be classified as a defect. This is the big difference I learned after a lot of struggle when I was learning the testing part. So these are some software artifacts, facts which I just want to introduce to get an idea about the testing. Next part is the types of test activities, like the test design, which includes everything like the documentation part, which I mentioned in verification and validation. The white box testing part, the integration system testing, where the design itself dictates or the documentation itself dictates what environment, what phases you're gonna test, what exactly roles you have put to test the software developed and everything. And it comes to test automation, we know that we have manual and automation testing, where some part of software which we cannot automate, we have to test manually only. But when it comes to automation, yeah, we can majority of the software we can automate, and that comes under test automation. And then the third and fourth phase is execution and evaluation level, where we execute in each and every test case written by a test engineer, and then evaluate that is it going as per the requirement or not. So this is just if I say basic explanation of what exactly the testing terminology or testing involves. So when I explain about the types of software testing, like we have a manual testing and automation testing, as I mentioned, but I just showing you in a small chart so that you can understand in a way better. But I have all the definitions listed, but in a tree pattern. So let me just show you one second. So here, if you see the types of software testing, I divided into some 6 phases where I can discuss about the types of software testing, the test strategy and its components, and some of the major key difference between a test plan and a test strategy, where a lot of people confuses. Even I, used to think that when I was learning testing, the test plan and test strategy is the same, but that's not the part. Like we'll just go ahead and definitely understand what exactly these deals. And we have some testing documentation, which is very important part of the testing. And finally, that we have some test design techniques. uh, so when coming to types of software testing, we have white box testing, black box testing, gray box testing, and other testing includes. So I just give you the definition of the white box testing. If you consider the white box testing, the developers will inspect every line of code before handing it out to the testing team or the consent test engineers. Like the code is noticeable for developers throughout the testing. Like they keep on digging on the code. That's the why, because they keep on digging the code, they understand what exactly went wrong, or how where the defect is can be found. So it's completely related to developer part, where a developer used to debug everything, or they inspect everything when they building the code. In other words, if I can say, developer will execute the complete white box testing for a particular software and then send the specific application to the testing team. Once they are satisfied that, yeah, this application or this component or this part of a software is working fine. So we have different names for white box testing. If we can see, like open box testing, glass box testing, structural testing, clear box testing, and transparent box testing. This line I just put in a lot of interview questions we come across this part, because when some of the interviewer asks like what is glass box testing, we get confused. But These all are the same. Like we can call it with different names. So that is what the white box testing deals with it. So the purpose of implementing the white box testing is just to empathize the flow of inputs and outputs over the software and enhance the security of the application. That is a main consideration which white box testing the developers do. Then we have a black box testing where the test engineers will analyze the software against the requirements, whatever the client or the product owner or the product head gives to the business analyst or the BRD document, where they identify the defects or bug and send it back to the development team in case if they are not satisfied. So then the developer will fix those defects. This will like in a it repeats, like it repeats mode. Developer develop the software, he hand over it to the testing team. In testing teams, tests in a different environments, different phases with a different applications, different websites, different like Chrome, Mozilla, different browsers. And then in case they feel that no, this is not proper, and they again give it to the developers, so that one round of white box testing again developers do, and then again it send it to testing team. So here the fixing the bugs means the defect is resolved and a particular feature is working according to the given requirement. So everything here comes under the requirement part. Like in the BRD document, if the requirement is something, and in case the developer is developing different thing, so the tester need to understand, and tester need to identify that this is deviating from the requirement, and yeah, and they you know reconsider. They send it to the developer to reconsider and redevelop it. So the main objective of the implementing the black box testing is to specify the business needs or the customer requirements in a simple way. So this is what the black box testing deals with it. When it comes to a gray box testing, it's just a mixed part of a white box and gray, the black box testing, where suppose one tester has a minimum knowledge of programming and he's also well aware of manual testing, so he can test it in a gray box testing area where he knows a little bit of knowledge where which is part of development or developing, and the manual testing also, so that he can go ahead and check the if he is having idea of some JSS scripts or HTML and other stuff that comes in a gray box testing. When it comes to black box testing, if I go ahead and define, we have functional testing and a non-functional testing, where a functional testing deals with that in a functional testing, the test engineer will check all the components systematically against requirements, the specification requirements and the specification given, that we can call as a functional testing. Like it's also known as a component testing, where where the part of black box testing it empathizes an application on requirement. Is it going as a requirement? And engineer is to test in any every phases, like that we can consider as an environment, different phases. So that comes under functional testing. Like and in a non-functional testing, if you see the definition, where the no, it is the next part of black box testing. So it provides detailed information on software product, the performance and the used technologies. Like if I consider non-functional testing, the performance testing and compatibility testing are the two major parts in a non-functional testing where a tester concentrate. But in a functional testing, if I see, we have unit testing, integration, and system testing, where a lot of developers concentrate on these three major steps. I just showing you the definition also here, what exactly the unit testing deals with it, uh, what the integration testing and what the system testing is. So if I go to unit testing, is this the first level of functional testing in order to test any software? So in this, the test engineers will test, or you can say the developer will test the module of an application independently, or test all the modules functionality, uh, as per the requirement. this is the first level of testing when the developer or the test engineers come across like, is it going as per the requirement or not? And the primary objective of executing the unit testing is to confirm that the unit components with their performance, like it can be defined as a single testable function of a software or any application which is developing by the developer, and it verify throughout the specified application in a development phase. So that's a small part of unit testing how. And once the unit testing is successfully implemented, we have another testing called integration. So in the integration testing, you can consider it as a second level of functional testing, where we test the data flow between dependent modules or interfaces between two features. And the purpose of executing the integration testing is to test the statements accuracy between each module. You have a different components. You need to test that each component is working on its way, or what are the properties of each components. So these kind of testing can be considered under integration testing. If we further classify this integration testing, we have testing divides into incremental and a non-incremental testing. But if I go ahead and explain, this is a very big topic, and because incremental testing again go ahead and divide into two phases called bottom to up and top to bottom testing. So these I'll just keep it in a just a simple way, that just in case if we get a chance, I'll try to explain in a next session what about this integration testing and different scenarios covered in integration testing. Once the integration testing is completed, and the developer or test engineer feels that this is working fine, we move to system testing, where whenever we are done with the unit and integration testing, the third thing is comes under system testing, where the test environment is parallel to the production environment, because so that you can get a better understand what exactly the requirement needs, and is it the developer is going as per the requirement. So in this type of testing, we all undergo each attribute of the software and test if the end feature works according to the business requirement. And we analyze every part of the software product and as a complete system. So like each component, each system, as a UI part or API part, everything will be observed in this system testing. So that comes under the functionality testing, like unit integration and system. We have some major tools which comes in the functional testing, which are famous in the market, like TestRiger, like most advanced codeless UI. I don't know how many are knowing this tool, but this is the advanced codeless UI functional testing tool which people are considering these in these year. Like I came across this test Tiger is famous, and because it automates test cases in a plain English, no matter how complex they are. Because when it comes to designing like writing test cases, it's a very tedious part. So this tool, just decreases the complexity and the time for the test engineer to concentrate on other things. So it gives you a better you know cases in a plain English, so that anyone can understand, like even business analyst or developer, or when it comes to a product owner, everyone can understand the test cases. And another, we all aware of the Selenium, the popular open source functional testing tool. The same way we have a QTP, which is very user friendly, but this is just covered like 20% of the industry in a testing industry, because a lot of people don't use or don't know this QTP very much. JUnit and SOAP UI, basically this also comes under this functional testing tool, where mainly for Java application. JUnit concentrate on mainly on Java application, and this can be used in unit and system testing. And we have Water. This is functional testing tool for any web application. It support all the tests executed at the web browser and use a Ruby scripting language. We have one process which use Ruby scripting language, like which deals with the credit part, like credit reporting and all. This is what we can cover under functional testing. When it comes to non-functional testing, we have performance testing and usability and compatibility testing. I divided it into because when it comes to performance testing, this is a very vast subject. Uh, you know, in this type of non-functional testing, the test engineers will only focus on several aspects, such as response time, load scalability, stability of the software, or in any application developed. Because if you see, in performance testing, we have a separate performance test engineers whose job is to just do these kind of testing. So that is the how the performance testing, the importance of the performance testing is. Uh, Coming to the classification of performance testing, if I divide it, we have load testing, stress testing, scalability, and stability, which is mentioned above. I divided it into different phases so that you can understand each step. uh, like load testing, while executing the performance testing, we will apply some load on the particular application to check the application performance, so that is it working fine. In a simple example, if you consider any result like 10th board application, or like these SSC or the banking applications, where when they release the results, the load on the application is so high that because every one used to want to get their results, and in that scenarios we can use this load testing. So how much load it can bear, or the load could be less than or equal to desired load. Like we give us a particular load that in a amount fragment way, or like that. Okay, we are giving this 10,000. So this is the load this application need to bear. So if the application is able to bear the 10,000 requests per second, so that is a it means that software is working fine. Else, it means we have some defects and we need to fix. So that's a simple example of a load testing. When it comes to stress testing, it is used to analyze the user friendliness and robustness of the software beyond any common functional limits. Because primarily stress testing is used for critical software, and it can also be used for all types of software application. But normally in a normal cases, the stress testing is used for only critical softwares. When it comes to a scalability testing, to analyze the application performances by enhancing or reducing the load in particular balance, that is known as a scalability testing. Like we can check the system process or the database, the DB ability, is it meeting the need or not. And this the test cases are designed and implemented efficiently, in the same way, like is it scalable or not, or the web application which we designed is able to meet all the requirement or not. That part can we can test in the scalability testing. And when it comes to stability testing, the name itself dictates that it is a procedure where we evaluate the application performance by applying the load on a precise time. How stable the application is working on certain conditions or the on certain time. So it mainly checks the constancy problem, or the application efficiency of a developed product. So in these types of testing, we normally rapidly find the system defect even in a stressful situation. So that we can analyze, or the developer or the business analyst can analyze how much more we can develop on these web application. So these are the some common terminologies which cover under performance testing. And if we divide the usability and compatibility testing, these are the two major non-functionality testing, where that every no not not every application use this, but majority of the application use this. When it comes to compatibility testing, we will check the functionality of an application in a specific hardware, and a software environments. You don't confuse with this hardware and software part. That's why I explained here. The software means we can test the application on a different operating systems like Windows or Safari browsers, different browsers, and hardware which can test the application on different sizes. This application, the compatibility testing, which mainly deals with you know uh, these type of things like software and hardware things, where once the application is functionally stable, like the end part of the application, like software is completely developed and we can assure that okay, this application is working fine, but we want an additional checks. In that condition or that scenario, we can go for a compatibility testing. When it comes to this usability testing, the application should be easy to understand, which means here I mentioned all the features must be visible to end users. Like if you see some applications, we have plenty of components where the required component by the user, which is required by the user, is not available. Like Amazon, if you see, we have every component available under one section. If you just go for a drop down, you see your orders, your subscriptions, your bills, Amazon Pay, everything under one drop down. So that kind of testing is a usability testing where user feels very comfortable while using this application. So the application looks and feel should be good. That means the application should pleasant looking to the user, or the end user who use the application in a production environment. Uh, So that comes under the usability and compatibility testing. So this goes under the black box testing, which I try to explain you. And these are the major three testing parts. We have other testing also like smoke testing, sanity, regression, which you come across in a daily life. The exploratory, ad hoc, security, globalization testing. These are some other testings parts. I don't know, like majority of the testing I never came across my testing like some beta testing, which majority used in this in the application. If you remember, we have a uni application which is a credit card part, where they release this beta application. So this application deals with user can check their like how this application is working, and they can comment or review, and they can give suggestion to the companies, so that they can improve more. These type of testings come under beta testings. So I these are the major testing where uh, which need to understand. So I divided this smoke, sanity. I gave some definitions where you can go through all. uh, 1 second. Yeah, if I read one, each and every testing, like smoke testing. So in smoke testing, if we will test an application basic and a critical feature before going one round of deep rigorous testing. Like in many application, you run smoke every day. It means that part of application should be run for run, or that part of application should work on that application. That's a major application which need to work for sure. So in that scenarios or conditions, we work on smoke testing. So this is basically deals with analyzing the workflow of the application, core and main functions, so that the performance is quite good, and all the major conditions are meeting. And when it comes to sanity testing, like it is used to ensure that all the bugs have been fixed and no added issue come into existence due to these changes. This can be considered sanity testing is completely unscripted, which means we cannot document it, but it checks the correctness of the newly added features and components. Like if you already developed an application, but uh, client came into, business analyst or product owner saying that, hey, I want to add some new feature, then yeah, that part of time a requirement, new components will add it to the requirement, and that part of time you can check the correctness of newly added features and components are working fine or not. So that covers the sanity testing. And we have regression testing, which a lot of testers run every time when they deploy their code into production, because the existing should not break. That is the major rule of the regression. Here, if you see the definition, the regression testing is the most commonly used type of software testing, which implies that we have to retest those parts of an unaffected application. It means more suitable testing for automation tools as per the project type and accessibility of the resources. Like wherever the bug is fixed by the developer, and then the testing of other features or the other applications that might be simulated because of the bug is fixing. Like, you developed something, and because of that, the previous developed is broken. So in that condition, regression testing is something which helps, so that it checks that everything which is the previous application or the development is working fine or not. The previous fixes are going smooth or not. So in a simple way, that is called the regression testing. Uh, we have a user acceptance testing where is completely done by an individual team known as a domain expert, or you can say customer, or the client, because they want to know, or they want to understand that everything is as per the requirement or not. So user acceptance testing is something which is completely related to, you can say a client, not a production, but before production part. So that application before accepting the final production is called user acceptance testing. Here we analyze, the business scenarios, the real-time scenarios, on distinct environments. Like, suppose, for example, you have a salesperson, like for any one product, and he wants to demonstrate to the clients. So he can use a acceptance testing environment, and he can, explain to the clients that, hey, see, this is what exactly our product is. Because it's very close to product, the client can understand easily. uh, so that comes under user acceptance testing. We have many other types of testing, which are called like exploratory testing, ad hoc testing, security testing. Here, I just want to mention the security testing because it's a very essential part of software testing, which is used to determine the weakness or the risks or threats of in the software application. Execution of security testing definitely help us to avoid the attacks from outsiders and ensure that software applications is completely working fine and it's secure. So in a simple words, we can say that it's mainly used to define that the data will be safe and endure the software working process. So this is one of the major, types of software testing. You can see the definition for global and ad hoc. I don't, read it out because we don't use it much. But when it comes to other testing parts, like we have a static, dynamic, load, stress, we have n number of testing in this. If I randomly select the monkey testing, where uh, it is something where which suppose a new tester joins into your organization and he wants to test, so you can call it as a monkey testing because he don't know the complete application. So he can jump into any element, like, and he can test that particular element. It cannot be in a sequel, like it cannot be in a documented way. He can test any components randomly select, so that part of testing can be considered under monkey testing. We have other testing called like structural testing, volume testing, scalability, stability, which everything take charge that the software is working fine or not. And this is depends completely on your application, what application you are building, what are the client requirement. It's not compulsory that every testing is to perform on an every software. That completely depends. Like if you are dealing with any banking software or you are dealing with any technical software, then certain types of testing you can avoid. So this is some types of software testing. I think I covered majority. When it comes to this test strategy part, which is our major agenda, so we can divide it into three phases, like what environment the test strategy is, and what are the artifacts included in this test strategy, or is it a testability or not? Like if we can test this software in this particular
Yeah, Shishir, sorry to interrupt you.
hmm,
Can you complete the test strategy within like 5 minutes, or otherwise, like we can continue in the further session? We can wrap
uh,
it up as of now, if, and go for question and answers if anyone has.
okay, sure. So
Yeah.
I'll try to complete in this 10 to 15 minutes.
No, no.
So
It
oh,
should be completed by like four
four,
five
okay.
minutes already. Yeah, it's already 3:55 almost.
Sorry, I didn't notice the time. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll try to explain the major components of the test strategy.
No,
Uh,
no, 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 Shashudha. I think it's better to wrap it up, and we can have a further session continuing with the stress
okay.
strategy. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you want me to just give a difference of test plan and strategy?
No, no, you can stop your explanation, and
Okay,
we
okay,
can
okay.
go for question and answers if anyone has.
Okay, it's fine, fine, fine.
Yeah.
It's a very big topic. I'm very sorry I couldn't cover it out. So yeah, like if we get a time, I have a lot of things we need to discuss, but I didn't get a time. So if you have any questions till now, what we discussed, so we can, you can ask like no questions. Anyone, any questions from your end till now? I'll share this presentation with you, and if you need, the further like presentation or the session, I'll definitely try to take another session because we have a lot of other topics which need to cover. Mm, I think
I
we
think
don't have
more
any question.
questions will, yeah, like I think more questions will come like when you start explaining actual test strategy and test plan. Yeah, we can cover that in next sessions. Yeah.
Sure, sure, Kote. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you very much for all your time. So, yeah, you can just email if you have any questions, or you can send text in my Teams so that I definitely try to take another session on this one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Sachin.
Thank you, Sashi. Hey, welcome.
Thank you.